work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kitchen Sink Microscopy. And I'm Casey Rochford, and that guy over there is I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Erik Rosenblatt.
That's right. That's right.
Yep, yep.
Only known you like 25 years or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Well, we're getting old now. I don't even remember my own name now.
Well, we thought with what's going on in the news with certain things being labeled as domestic terrorism, and there's this war-ravaged Portland. It might be kind of fun to kind of revisit the idea of terrorism in general, and
Hmm.
and kind of where all that hullabaloo came from,
Hmm.
which basically, thanks GW.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we know it's Cheney, of course. He was pulling the strings.
Ashcroft,
Ashcroft, yeah. Yeah,
Morning
exactly. Well,
Victoria, or
oh,
well,
yeah.
good evening for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Guten Abend.
Yes. Good day. Or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things too with all of this is they're basically leveraging some of the stuff that was passed post 9/11, like the Patriot Act and things. And in that too, they kind of sort of redefined terrorism.
Hmm.
It had a pretty clear definition before, and then it kind of they tweaked it a little bit to facilitate going after people that weren't necessarily uh, particularly responsible, I guess.
Well, not
Um,
just going after them, but like removing due process, which
and
was
it,
like
in
the dangerous part.
yeah, and invading countries and things like that. Exactly. Well, and uh, boy, that's a because I get oof, there is a certain logic to, like, the Antifa thing, like being labeled terrorists, a terrorist organization or whatever, but maybe to, like, if somebody's doing something, conducting activities that are terroristic in nature, then maybe they have a little bit more power to do something about it. But, like, at the same time, it's sort of a slippery slope, because it's kind of like the Red Scare, right? I mean, we didn't go through it, but McCarthy and stuff,
Yeah.
hunting people down, taking, like, basically like detaining and interrogating everybody,
I mean,
like, to
the
find
biggest problem
communists.
with that though is it's not even an organization.
Well,
Like I've
yeah,
never been for their like, jump straight to violence tendencies that many of them exhibit. And I say many of them because like if I'm going to pick a side
mhm.
on from fascism or Antifa, I'm gonna go with Antifa. You know,
Yeah, but
like
one of the problems, it kind of attracts a lot of assholes too, and that, I guess, is like what I
it
see,
does,
where
but
it's like I don't
there's
agree
there's
with.
assholes on both sides, and
Well,
some
yeah,
are dirtier than others. So
yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, what do you do? I guess I don't know, but it, but that's the thing. It's like, what? Sure, there are bad actors, and sure, if they're busting things and burning things and shooting people and whatever, beating people up, they ought to be arrested for that. But, like, at that point, like, well, like you said, it's not really like an organization proper. I mean,
yeah,
it is organized in a sense, in that people get on Discord and whatnot, and Reddit and wherever places online, and kind of like coordinate things and share information. But yeah, the problem is, then it's like they're going to start seeing it everywhere.
right. Well,
That's
that's
like,
what they're gonna do anyway, is just label whatever they want
mhm.
as like anything in opposition to them as terrorism. The funniest part about it is that they've straight up just said anti-fascism is an enemy of the government, so the government is fascist. Then you're admitting that now.
Well,
Okay.
but now, okay. The thing is, you can call yourself that, but that doesn't necessarily mean, just because you say something doesn't mean it is that thing. So it's like, that's a tricky one.
Right.
Um,
Well, that argument goes for the what we're talking about
Well,
too.
I know exactly. It's like, what? How do you determine the truth? Like, what is real? And that's where it starts getting like, I don't know. My head spins a little bit trying to figure out what is true. And it's like, well, maybe everybody sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe that's at the end of the day. It's like they all suck. Like maybe we need something completely new and fresh that's different. But I don't know. The big problem with this, the whole like labeling them as terrorists goes back to McCarthy and stuff, like where
Yep.
like one, or well, we went through this, I believe. I think you remember the Satanic Panic in the 80s,
Yeah.
where like everything, the devil was everywhere, and like
And
anything
that
that
damage that
point to.
lasts for generations,
Yes,
you know?
yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like it's kind of a moral panic in a sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have the stupid thing is there's like layers upon layers of moral panics kind of overlapping right now. But that kind of thing is that where it's like the danger is like, while there are bad actors and they should, there should be justice served to them. Um, the problem is then they're going to start. It's never going to end. They're going to see terrorists everywhere,
Right.
and
I
then
I really like what started to happen with the police in Washington. I don't know how it's going now, but there was a time there where they were not allowed to pursue
yeah,
like high speed chase unless it was like an active murderer or some other like direct threat to
somebody
public safety.
driving around shooting or something
Yeah,
where
because all of the other police escalation events just created danger where it didn't need to exist in the first place,
yeah,
all for the sake of stopping crime, like
yeah,
while meanwhile crime is stealing a Snickers or, evading your taxes. Like calm down, people. Like
yeah,
we
yeah,
don't
have burned out tail
don't
light or whatever, or maybe
yeah,
you've
like
got some weed in your car.
don't get carried away with crime and making crime pay and all this stuff.
At all
Like
costs, right? That's
yeah,
a
like
dangerous
we
thing.
got to be really careful about that. Like,
I know. Well, and I
first of
totally.
all, like, yes, crime is wrong, I guess,
Mhm.
in like a broad general overview sense of things, but let's not use that as an apology for what's going on now. Like, oh, like, yeah, crime should be taken care of, so I guess it kind of makes sense that they're, taking away our freedoms to do it. Well,
Yeah.
no,
That's no, you
never
should
take.
never trade freedom for security like that. That's always
Yeah.
bad. It well, and actually, just to that point of pursuits, there's a new tool in the police's toolbox, which I think is really awesome. And I've seen quite a few videos now of this in action. I think they call it the grappler. So it's this thing on the front of the police car, and
I saw
they
that.
get
Yeah.
close. They can shoot this thing, and it grabs the car, like the back of the car, and then they just hit the brakes and stop them.
Yep.
And it's quite effective. Like it's like, hey, if you have that opportunity, go ahead and use that so that you don't keep chasing them through the streets and put people's lives in danger. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, we have some comments here. Quite a few comments actually. Probably harkening back to some of the things we said earlier. Being an asshole and being a terrorist are not the same thing. This is true. Yeah. Although I would
Yeah.
say it's like all dogs are animals, but not all animals are dogs, basically. I would say that terrorists are all assholes. Like if you are literally being a terrorist, doing what classically would be referred to as terrorist activity, yeah, it's an asshole thing. But yeah, not all assholes are terrorists, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, so the Luigi Mangione we talked about a few times. There was a recent update in that situation where a judge ruled that he is in fact not to be tried as a terrorist,
Mm-hmm.
even though I would actually consider, even though like I don't really blame him for what he allegedly did, but I could see how that would fall under the definition of, using an act of terror in order to affect like political change,
Yeah, yeah.
which it has actually been positively beneficial in doing to some degree.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
not
I mean, you
not a
could say
huge degree, but some.
Charlie Kirk too, the same sort of thing. I mean, clearly there was a motive beyond just killing a person,
Hmm.
and so that sort of
But I
falls into that
hesitate to
category.
call that political because he wasn't a politician,
No, I mean
you know.
he spoke more from like a Christian standpoint more than like a
Yeah,
political. He did talk about politics, but a lot of his discussions were more of like a were more
I
philosophical
mean,
and
he had that
theosophical.
Turning Point USA thing, which I think
Mhm.
was meant to affect political change and stuff, but strictly speaking, like calling it an assassination and a politically motivated thing, like I feel like that's, I don't know, like,
I guess we don't know. We don't have all the details of the motive and stuff. So once we find that out, maybe we could have a clearer definition of that,
hmm.
like whether it is or not. Yeah, I mean, I just
Well,
I
then
don't
there's
know.
like this question of in both of these situations, Kirk and Mangione, like where they'll show you these footage taken from various cameras or whatever, and then like the mugshot, and there's like some distinguishing features that are like fairly different.
Yeah,
Um, and like the lips on this shooter from Charlie Kirk, like totally wrong, totally wrong.
well, yeah, and the shooter, like there are a lot of people questioning that. Like,
Yeah, so like
did they
what's up
have
with
the right
this?
guy? Was he a
Yeah.
patsy? Was this like had a was there a different motive there
Yeah,
from
and
a
that's
different
nothing
group?
new, by the way. I mean,
No,
Lee Harvey Oswald and all that
yeah.
stuff, like people
Oh yeah,
wondered.
for sure. And I mean, there's even people saying like maybe the government of Israel for some reason had some kind of role. But like I don't know, that always comes up, like
Yeah.
Mossad and shit that the IDF maybe or whatever. And like, yeah, I don't know about
All I
that.
know is if there's an alien ship on its way here, I really hope they're here to see our leaders and take them away.
Yeah, yeah.
Take them, leave the rest of us here, and we'll kind of clean up
That
after
would
them.
that would be
Yeah.
pretty nice, wouldn't it? So we have some other comments here that let's see. Like, I don't like you and you're acting in a way to cause the general public to be afraid to go on with their daily lives out of fear for their lives uh, are are not the same thing. Also, there's a line between this demonstration has caused me discomfort and inconvenience, and the actions of this group has made me afraid enough of dealing or leaving my house to participate in daily life.
Afraid
Um,
enough of dying, I think. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I mean that's kind of like that is part of the purpose of terrorist
Right.
activity of terrorism.
Well, let's go back to GW.
Mhm.
At post 9/11, terrorism became a buzzword for kind of like kind of the first time in a politically charged way.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Because before that, well, let's
it was
let's
big in the
rewind.
70s and stuff, but like that
Yeah,
was
because
pretty legit, you
there
know.
was there were like most of the terrorist activities. There were plane hijackings for
Yeah.
sure. That was
Hmm.
actually really common, like Libyan terrorists and stuff. But they would basically hijack a plane and hold people hostage to get something, like
Yep.
get a hostage, somebody released or whatever, get some money or whatever they wanted to do, and then they let everybody go. That was
Yeah.
kind of the thing. Um,
But like when George Bush created this palpable enemy,
mhm.
the nebulous terrorism,
Yeah.
and the war on terror. Like how do we go to war with an
Mhm.
ideology?
What would be like the war on poverty? Like, what the hell is that?
Right. And the war
Like,
on drugs and all this stuff.
how do you
It's like,
fight that?
and it was really effective as what do they call it? A psyop or something? Like
Well, I mean, it could be.
uh
Um,
where you kind of like you effectively make people afraid of the thing that isn't really there in the first place. I mean, it
Well,
is, but like not to the degree that you're fluffing it up to, you know?
yes, yes. It's like the saying goes, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Hmm.
And so the thing that really catalyzed this, I think, and allowed everybody to kind of like let this happen, like the Patriot Act and all that, was the dramatic nature of, you know, like the Pentagon being hit, the World Trade Center, the buildings falling. It was so dramatic and so crazy, and it was just televised, and people talked about it, and it was just this huge thing that was massive. Like lots of people died, and it was this big deal. So like right on the heels of that came like, oh yeah, we're gonna institute these things like Patriot Act and whatnot, and people were like, oh yeah, okay, you know, and it was like unanimously voted in, and
Yeah.
and of course, obviously, that immediately trampled on people's rights quite a
Yeah.
bit. Still does to this day. They
Oh
keep
yeah.
re-upping it for some odd reason. But
For
like,
anyone that thinks I never give Democrats shit, I was really pissed at Obama for
yeah,
re-upping the Patriot Act
yeah, which
twice,
I
right?
think, uh-huh. What's that?
He did it twice, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
and I think he campaigned on not doing that.
Right.
Just like
Yeah.
he campaigned on closing down Guantanamo, and last I checked, it's still there.
Hmm.
You know, like, but and that's the thing. They sort of use that tragic event to get to kind of like shove this in and go ahead and do things that they would never be able to do. And one could say it's like the what they call the Hegelian dialectic, right? You know, problem, reaction, solution, um,
Uh,
where like you create the problem and people respond to it in emotional ways, and then you provide that solution that you wouldn't be able to do before. There's no way, if 9/11 didn't happen, they would not have been able to pass the Patriot Act and some of the other things they passed.
yeah.
The people wouldn't have it. So, and I have no doubt. Now, some obviously would say we've talked about that, you know, the 9/11 being an inside job, and I'm still skeptical about all that. Either way, except for Building 7 is a big question mark there. You look into that one. And where was I? Uh, so
America's
basically,
basically a con job.
yeah. I mean, so whether it was an inside job or not, they probably had a lot of these plans waiting in the wings for just the
Mm,
right moment. And so basically, they're like, now's our chance. Let's go ahead and put this together, put it out there to a vote, and boom, it just got passed.
right.
And
Okay, so now they're being pretty transparent about just following Project 2025 as their general playbook.
mhm.
And that was a lot of pages. I forget, like 1,400 pages or something.
Jeez.
Patriot Act was a lot of pages, and it poof just appeared overnight,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that probably was waiting in the wings.
Oh, I'm
And
sure they had like a general plan already in place. So all they had to do was kind of write it in legalese,
yeah.
essentially.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a comment. I don't think it was an inside job, 9/11, so
Mhm.
much as it was an outside job that the government let happen for convenience. I've thought that as well. Like it
Mhm.
probably, like I don't know that they would go so far as to like purposely sacrifice or target their own citizens, or at least I would fucking hope not.
Well,
But
I wouldn't put
uh,
it past Dick Cheney.
yeah,
Well,
crash
no,
course.
yeah, you're right, because I mean there were warnings beforehand,
Hmm.
similar in a way to Pearl Harbor,
Mm.
where the Americans knew. I mean, they didn't like. Okay, my general idea of it is that they knew an attack was coming, but they didn't know quite where or when. Some
Uh,
people say that they knew exactly when it was coming, and they just let it happen so America would enter the war, because America was isolationist, pacifist. Nobody wanted a war again after World War One. They were like war weary, and
yeah.
so allowing it to happen, that was such an, again, a very dramatic event that everybody saw. It was a day that will live in infamy, essentially. And so now all of a sudden people are lining up to join the military. They're off they go, and people are pumped. And it's the same thing after 9/11.
Yeah.
People were angry, and like they wanted to get those guys back. And so, it's like they totally supported it where they
Military
wouldn't
has
have
been
supported it.
bloated ever since.
Yeah, no kidding. And so like I while it's like we don't really know because there's a lot of documents we don't have access to, and probably communiques that we don't know about. I certainly wouldn't doubt, like I wouldn't be surprised if it came out that like 9/11 they knew about it, or maybe even had a hand in it somehow, you
I
know.
mean, if the Epstein files get pushed back far enough, Trump will eventually release 9/11 stuff, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
to
yeah.
distract, like
Mm-hmm. Or the UFO stuff, that'd be nice. I'd like to see that one. That's what I'm hoping that they do that. Um, well, and see, the thing is, we're living with this now. Like, if all this stuff that was passed back in the early 2000s didn't get passed, like labeling somebody a terrorist organization would have no effect.
right.
It's like, oh well, okay, whatever. What's in a name? You
Yeah.
sure, I guess they're terrorists, but it wouldn't
It's
really
it's
carry
the
any.
new commie,
Yeah.
like you said,
Yep. Mhm.
like the Red Scare,
Well,
it's
and that's the thing, and the problem with that is how do you differentiate between people who really do intend to do harm and cause destruction, and people who are just kind of there? Maybe they just have they like maybe people share an ideology, but they're not the kind of people who would go into the streets and like bust up buildings and throw bombs and firebomb things and cause a bunch of destruction. Like, but like, how would you? Because at that point now the risk is just like in the back in the day in the Red Scare, the risk is you don't even want to even have an inkling of appearance that you might be associated with that those people,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
and that's that
That's kind of what they're driving
it's
for right now, like
yeah,
with
it's
this huge propaganda push. and
well
and let's not mince words. Like the current administration is a textbook definition of domestic terrorism.
well,
Like,
and yeah, the fact is it has been for a long time too. Like, I mean, it really has been, and people, I
yeah,
think,
but
need
I mean, like, there's no comparison. This now is like shit's gone nuts, like
it.
really nuts.
Well, and you think this is nuts? Just wait. I
Yeah,
like
I know,
it's
I know.
there's a trend, and I've been following it, and there's escalation on all sides, and I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I don't think it's going to be very good.
Oh no.
And it's going to get worse before it gets better, and it,
Yeah,
it will it will get better, but again,
I
it's one
mean,
of those things where essentially like you have to hit rock bottom if you're like an addict before you finally decide to make a change.
right. This does show that the government is scared to death of the people.
Yeah.
They're getting really desperate and pulling out all these drastic measures, but where it's going to go from here, I'm not super optimistic.
Well,
Um,
see, yeah, because here's the problem. It like we have two sides that are both bad. We have the one where it's like the Red Scare, where everybody's a commie, like you simply talk to somebody who's on the list, right? And now you're on the list too, that kind
yeah,
of thing. And now they're going to be detaining you and like interrogating and this and that. And it's like everybody's a terrorist basically now. Um, but also you have the issue, which it's like if you leave it alone and just deal with it on a case by case basis, that's one thing. But now it's essentially adding fuel to the fire, because
mhm,
now what you're doing is essentially telling those people that, well, you better step it up, and so it could actually cause the opposite effect. So like I see bad things all around, like people who would otherwise not do anything, who are like in the Antifa group, um might actually start doing things. It's like, okay, well, now you've just made it worse. And now, of course, what that does, it's reciprocal too. So now they're like, see, I knew it. And now they're going to go after more and more people, and because it'll be justified, right? It's like the terrorist thing. And it's like everybody's a terrorist.
Yeah.
it, it, and so, for instance, like, in Afghanistan, like, they were going after, well, and then of course, sneakily somehow they were like Iraq, and
Right.
somehow we're in Iraq. And but like, they were killing people who may or may not have been terrorists. And townspeople saw
Yeah.
that and they got pissed, and then they started fighting back, and it just escalated, and it
Yeah.
got worse and worse and worse. And it's like, maybe back off a little bit and kind of, be surgical about things, I suppose. Go after actual criminals and stuff.
Right. From that moment on, America has objectively been the bad guy in the world. Like sticking their noses where they don't belong,
Mm-hmm.
overstaying welcomes. Like oftentimes there wasn't even a welcome.
Yeah.
They've got bases everywhere. Like they
Yes.
just go where they want to, trample over everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then,
Well, prior to that, there were, like, we were always involved in the affairs of other countries, but it was like proxy wars and little CIA things that they would do.
yeah,
I mean, if you look at all the conflicts throughout history in the last century, the US in some clandestine way had a hand in that.
yeah,
Almost every conflict.
it all led to where we are now, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and
Like
and
at what
going,
point it went off the rails, who can say? But
yeah,
um,
I know.
it's significantly far from the railway now. Uh,
Yes. Yes. Well,
there's no
and we
getting back on the rails.
exactly. Well, post, World War One, or I guess World War Two, let's say, we have a track record of these conflicts, right? These kind of unjustified conflicts. We have, the Korean War, you have Vietnam in particular. Those were like the big ones that were like total failures. Like, absolutely. I mean, one could say, oh, well, Korea, like, we kind of were effective in a way, but not really, because technically we're kind of, it's like a ceasefire. Like, the war is
Yeah.
technically there still.
Right. Like anything that America calls, well, it's technically a police action means it was a war that we lost.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
It,
yeah,
well,
Vietnam,
and that's
Korea
the
was,
thing. Like, with Vietnam's a really good example of how things go off the rails, where we were there as advisors at first, just kind of training and helping the South Vietnamese, essentially, and like, just helping. And then more and more and more things happened, and of course certain events happened that kind of changed the battlefield, I guess, or the game board, shall we say. And it escalated from there, and pretty soon it's a total hot war, and the US is like deeply embedded and getting their asses handed to them, of course.
yeah.
The NVA got real crafty. So
What I'm confused about though is like, what is Trump's deal with Portland? This is not the first time he's mobilized the military in Portland, Oregon.
yeah, but, well, Portland is kind of, I don't know. Portland's kind of a mess, honestly. Like, there definitely should be something
How
done there, but
so?
it isn't
I
like,
mean,
well, just the general crime and things. But it's they're not unique. There's a lot of places. Seattle's pretty bad too. You know.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I've been to Portland fairly recently,
mhm.
and it's definitely not what it used to be, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it like Detroit or something,
No,
like
no. It's
like
certainly,
as cities go, it's nowhere near the top of the list of things that would need military action, much less, never mind the fact that the president doesn't have that power
no,
to do that.
no. The
Like,
the only thing that a president can do is, like, when it comes to like any kind of internal police action, would be to send federal forces to protect a federal building. That's about it. Like you can send in military or whatever just for the federal side of things. So like if there's whatever, that's all they can do. They can't like
Yeah, it
roam
makes
the
sense, but
streets. They can't roam the streets and do police things
yeah.
or military things at
But
all.
all he does is say there's a war there,
I,
and
it's
what?
a lot of like the chest beating and
Yeah.
it's just it's nonsense. And I mean, but you're right. Like Portland's not that crazy. But I think I think what for one, it's like the game of telephone, right? Where and the way the media portrays things and stuff like that. It's like they kind of cherry pick things, and so you only see certain things. You don't see the big picture.
Oh
So
no,
it's like,
that's the great thing about Trump. He fucking tweets everything that he is. So
yeah,
you just get it straight from the horse's mouth. There's no taking things out of context or anything. He just hands it to everybody
yeah.
on a silver platter. So that's not the case here. Like he's really saying this stuff, you know.
Well, and maybe he believes it. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think, I guess maybe it's probably like the perception. Well, I suppose that the actuality that the police there are not really
Well,
keeping the
there's a
peace.
there's a comment here that kind of hits it on the head here. They're also some of the most openly progressive places in the country.
Mm,
And like that is a definite blatant pattern that you can look at. Like
mm,
he's definitely following up on like he's the first politician that sticks to his word. And he
yeah,
said, I'm gonna go after my political enemies, and that's what he's doing,
yeah.
you know?
Well, and in that,
And
I
that's
guess
not
it's like
right.
no, it's not. But I guess in a sense, it's a predictable course. So maybe that's better than completely random and like
Nothing about this is better than
no, no. Well, and
you're
my
you're
hope,
definitely not in a better place than
no, well, I guess
10 years ago or something,
my hope here is that people both on the left and the right and the people in between look at everything and they're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
We can't carry on like this. Okay, so we need to do something different. And maybe actually have a little common sense for a change.
Right.
um, and try to get along and maybe, I don't know, don't involve government in so many things and don't look to government as like put it up on a pedestal like, you know oh, there's all these problems and only government can solve them, which is absolute bullshit. Only we can solve them. Government just makes everything worse. It's like the reverse Midas touch. Everything they put their finger on turns to shit. And so maybe people will start stepping back from that and
I
stop
recently
believing.
put something out on social media with absolutely no attention, as usual. But
Mm,
I was saying, like, we definitely need to like start over and learn from our mistakes.
yeah.
And I was just kind of drafting a list of things that, like, you know, a new system of government would definitely need to take into account in some fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those things is like, we can't let checks and balances be so flimsy
Yeah.
anymore.
No
Like
kidding.
there needs to be public oversight of the government, like not a
That's
branch
exactly.
of the government,
Yeah.
but something that is like guaranteed to be there by the Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
where, people just, I don't know, volunteer or there's a lottery or whatever, but they every so often get to look at everything, every
Yeah.
law,
Mm-hmm.
every uh, executive order, everything that comes out of the government and have the final veto.
Well, I agree, and not only that, but there needs to be a lot less top secret documents, classified
Mhm.
documents, like that. The standard for that kind of classification should be very high, right? Like, okay, this is an active espionage thing with actual spies doing this thing, clandestine stuff, and obviously, if everybody could see it, well, that blows their cover, right? Like that would be okay, that's fine, but like all these other things, there's no reason for it to be secret. They always call state secrets, right? every single time. Oh no, no, we can't talk about that because it's secret. And it's like, what? This is, dude, you're Department of Agriculture. What the fuck are you talking about? You know, like seriously, it's like they just do it over and over, and now it's habit, and there's nobody calling them out on it. And that I'd like to see more transparency, and
Yep.
like kind of what you're talking about in a way. Like there needs to be in-person stuff. We need to be able to see everything that's going on. I mean, they're our government, right? We
Yeah.
put them there. They
There needs to be time limits on everything. Top
Yes.
secret stuff,
Yep.
all that needs to be, you have to re-up it every so often. And in order for that to happen, I would say like every iteration of re-upping declassifies it automatically one step down so that other eyes can get on it and say, look, we don't need to classify this anymore. Like this is
Yeah.
bullshit.
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you
exactly.
leave the top circle entirely in charge of saying, oh, these have to be secret, you just take their word for it because you can't look at the evidence to make your own determination.
And of course there's like FOIA requests, but you can get a lot of documents, but they're heavily redacted.
Hmm.
Even stuff from like a long time ago. It's like, why the hell is that secret?
Fucking
All the people
redacting.
involved are all dead now. Why is it, what the hell? It doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, redacting, I feel like, oh God, that should not be legal at all. You know,
Well, and like I
if a
said,
document has
only
to be made, uh, you know, taken out of its top secret status, just consider everything fucking compromised
yeah.
and start it over. You know, pull your operatives out, make an excuse, put a new one in, whatever.
Mhm.
But redacting shit is too shady.
Yeah,
Too
I
shady.
agree. Well, and like I said, the standard should be very high, and there should be only limited circumstances where you can actually classify documents. For instance, like if there's documents related to a project, right? They're building a new fighter jet or something. Yeah, okay, they're in the middle of building it, so obviously you'd want to keep that secret. You don't want like Russia gaining access to all this
Yeah.
information while the plane is still being worked
Treat
on.
it like a patent, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and but like that's the thing. It's like that makes sense. Keeping that secret does make sense. If you have spies out there, keeping that secret makes sense. But all the other stuff makes no sense. And a lot of the stuff is protecting politicians and bureaucrats from the eyes of the public. That's really what it like. Almost all of it is basically keeping
Yeah.
people from knowing what's going on, because
Yep.
if they knew what's going on, they'd have absolutely no faith. In fact, they'd probably riot in the streets if they knew. There's some shit, dude. Like I'm telling you, if
The
yeah,
Epstein files, I think, are going to be enough to break everybody's illusion that
yep.
the government can be trusted, you
And
know?
they're afraid of that because I mean, like Cash Patel and like
Mhm.
in the beginning, he's like, yeah, 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 we know all this stuff, and there's going to be this thing, and then he gets in there and he's like, no, Epstein hung himself and everything's fine and there's no list. Pam Bondi is like, I have the list, and then all of a sudden she doesn't.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
what the fuck is going on here? Like, of course, like basically because this is bipartisan. That's why they didn't release it when Biden was in office,
Oh,
because
yeah.
everybody's scared of this getting out.
Yeah. Well, now Elon Musk is probably in there too, which I
Yeah.
mean was pretty evident anyway, since he ran Doge and went in and
Well, and
never
that's the thing.
released it.
Everybody has something to lose by this information getting
Yep.
out. But
Mhm.
it not only that, but the bigger picture is if people knew the scale of it, how the tendrils reach into everything,
Yeah.
not just government, but banking and media and
All over.
everything. And
Mhm.
and so it
Other countries.
other countries and things like that. So it's like if the public were made aware
Doesn't
of
matter.
all,
It needs to come out because
I
that shit
agree.
has to stop.
I
Like,
agree, but this is the thing. It would be kind of like pulling back the curtain in The Wizard of Oz, right? Like
yeah.
you think most people, the average person, has faith in the government. They believe in it. They participate. They care about it. And if all the information that they have, and they do have it, if that were to come out, everybody would suddenly lose faith. They would no longer believe because they'd be like, "Wow, it's rotten. everywhere, rotten to the core. My party was involved in that, and that party was involved in that. Like shit, this is big. Like
Yeah.
nobody would they lose faith and everything would crumble.
People got to start disconnecting themselves from their team. It's
Mm-hmm.
not your party. It never
Mm-hmm.
was your party.
Yep.
Like people don't think in boxes,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, we
Like,
shouldn't. We should be thinking of like. Here's the thing.
yeah,
This is the way I see it. It's like I'm not in a box really. Like I'm outside the box, I guess. But the box isn't even real. It's like you should read Flatland. It's kind of like if you think that there's walls and stuff, but all of a sudden, if you look from above, it's just lines. That's
yeah,
all it is, and it's just all made up. Um, and and so, but I look at people, as individuals. Like everybody's just a person. They have their beliefs and their views and that kind of thing, and everybody's different. Like right, and it's like okay, well, there's always things we can agree on, and there's things we disagree on. Like why it's an artificial thing to like be a part of a party who doesn't even care about you. By the way, that's the thing. I mean, you were just
yeah,
saying that basically, like the D's and the R's, like those representatives don't represent you, and they in fact detest you. They play you. That's the thing. It's like all campaigning and all that stuff. It's pillow talk. It's just they're lying. They're they're never going to do the things they say they're going to do. If they do, they half-ass it. That kind of thing, just so they can say they did, even though it's like, well, it actually will have the opposite effect a
right.
lot of times, and
Yeah.
and it always plays into the corporate world, of course, because we're a corporatocracy,
Hmm.
and have been for a long, long time, and so yeah, we need to step aside from that because all it does is creates conflict and that's by design. They want us to be fighting each other
Oh
so
yeah.
that they can control us.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We need to not think that way anymore. We need to think it's like, hey, the enemy is not the other team. The enemy is over there in DC. Those are the guys that are like putting their jackboot on our neck,
Yep.
and that has to stop.
Yeah. And that's definitely like we're at that tipping point, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, it, it's not gonna be easy.
No,
Like
no.
for going forward, it's never gonna be the same. There's not gonna be the good old days,
Mm-hmm.
like we might make new good old days
Yeah. Oh,
someday,
absolutely. Yeah.
but like it's not gonna be the same.
No,
And
and so I like I said earlier on, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, but that's probably necessary for people to start taking notice of things and
yeah,
start pondering this and asking why. But yeah, the change though, I would say we should look at it not as like I mean, it's going to be difficult, but it'll be difficult like moving is difficult, right? You move,
yeah,
like if I were to move from here to somewhere else, it would be a huge hassle. But like it's also fun when you unpack and start putting things in new places and like, oh
yeah,
wow, like it refreshes everything, and so there's a benefit, there's a positive there in my mind,
right,
in that like yeah, we can redecorate in a
yeah,
way that we were never able to do before because it's kind of like my philosophy on cleaning or reorganizing. Like basically what you do is you take everything out of a room, everything, and then you look at all the things and then you put it back. But what you end up doing is finding things that like, oh, I didn't need that, why is that there,
I'm
and
going to
then
look at you.
yeah, yeah. So you put things back and now you can kind of like visualize it in a different way and reorganize it unimpeded by the mess and the clutter, that
Yeah,
kind of thing. Because right now if you look, like the US government is kind of like a hoarder house.
yeah,
If you think about it, like as an analogy, it really is a hoarder house.
I
There's so
can't tell
much
you.
bloat and shit and stuff that doesn't need to be there and stuff that just gets in the way. And it's like, think about it too. It's like in a nice clean house that's well organized, you can move around and you know where everything is and you can find things and it's all clean. It's very easy to clean because it starts off clean. So if you make a mess, you just got to clean the one thing or dust a little. But in a hoarder house, even just moving from room to room can be a challenge. Some of those ones where it's just like floor to ceiling junk. But you
Yeah.
look at that stuff and it's like it's just junk, you know? And
Along those lines, like I can't tell you how many people lately have been messaging me and being like, "You're so lucky you got out of the country when you did."
mhm,
And I'm like, "Yeah, I definitely feel that. I also like miss a lot of people, but being outside of that now, I can see like the the place I left is dead and
mhm,
gone.
yeah,
Like if I were still there, I would be like surrounded by all these things that reminded me of better times as if they were still just right there, able for me to reach out and touch, but they're not.
yeah.
You know, like,
Well, it
and
gives
it's
you a
like you're
different.
talking about, like, you're still surrounded by all the memories and
Mhm.
everything. Like, and all that stuff, you have to be able to put that out of your head because that's all it is just memories now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and think about it like this. Another analogy, I guess, where it's an episode of analogies. Think about like, it's sort of like a relationship. Okay. Early days in the US, it was all fresh and it was like honeymoon phase. It was growing and things were great. Times
Mm,
were really generally good, other than the bumps in the road here and there, a couple wars and economy things. But it's like, oh, it was getting better, right?
yeah.
And then you hit this plateau of kind of just malaise, which I would say is like the 1900s for the most part. Um, and and then at some point, it's like now it becomes a caustic relationship where you're at each other's throats. You fight all the time. You can't agree, and stuff. And it's like, but a lot of people in relationships, in particular if they're married and have kids and stuff, they have skin in the game essentially. So they'll hang on despite the fact that it's bleeding obvious that it ain't working out.
Right.
And that's where we are now. I think it's like this is a relationship. We have to have a divorce basically, you
Yeah.
know, and it's not going to be fun. I have a friend who's going through a divorce right now, and it's a mess.
Well,
Holy
and
shit.
I've been through a couple divorces of my own and
Mm-hmm.
some breakups with like significant, like living together,
Mm-hmm.
significant others and stuff. And that breakup period where you still have to live together is awkward and difficult.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Uh, and
It is.
that's what it's going to be like, you know, and
Sure. Well, but it is it has to happen. Like that's but here's I guess what my point was is also at the same time when you have this caustic relationship like this terminus essentially of the relationship that memory is really funky like that where you tend to remember only the good things and you remember like yeah man I remember how it was when we first got together and you sort of color the relationship that way. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. They're coloring this relationship as it was in the early days or as their grandparents did or something like that. And it's like, okay, but when you look around, you don't see it quite like that. There's remnants of that, but only just
yeah,
but now it's stacked. It's like your hoarder house, you've got your photos of when you were young and stuff hanging or sitting on a counter or something, but it's covered in junk. That's kind of where we are. It's like, yeah, there is a hint of what was, but it's completely overwhelmed by all the shit, you know?
yeah,
And so you either rip everything out of the house, clean it, and put back only the things you want, or you just burn it down. you know,
yeah,
like I think like see, there's a lot of people who like would leave and stuff, and so that's fair enough. That's fine. But I think it's also important that people of sound mind and reason and common sense stay here and try to affect change in a good way.
yeah, yeah. Like somebody's got to clean up and rebuild and all that. And
Yeah.
yeah, of course, like I actually, the strong inner sense of justice in me wishes I was still back there, but like the rational part of my brain says, I would be an idiot to step foot in that country now. Like, like I need to wait until there's a safer time before I come back there.
Yeah, well,
Um,
and that's fine. It's like you also, I mean, in any kind of situation, you need people on the outside as well.
exactly. And
That's
and and I feel like that's where my strength can be is like I can at least talk with people from the outside, from another perspective, outside looking in, like, hey, I can see things, I get different media interpretations of things. I can see how other things are working in other countries and in my own country here, and we can have conversations about how that could work there,
Mhm.
going forward and what needs to change in order for that to happen. And
Yeah.
that's the most I can do. But that alone makes me a domestic terrorist
Yeah.
or, whatever,
And
like,
even me, if like I could be potentially on a list because I say I'm an anarchist, but I'm not that kind of anarchist, you know?
yeah,
Like I'm a pacifist, like a voluntarist, basically. Like that's how I believe. I'm not don't believe in violence unless you in defense, right? Like imminent threat defense. That makes sense. I'll participate in that. Um, but it's yeah. But this is the thing. It's like I think people need to start thinking about this. It's like what have we become?
yeah.
And how do we fix that? Like one day you wake up in your hoarder house and you're like, man, this sucks. This is a mess. But then, it's such a mess. It's so huge of a mess that you can't even figure out where to begin if you want to clean it up. That's the
The
thing.
imminent threat. What is an imminent threat?
Oh, like say somebody points a gun at you or somebody else or something like that. They come at you with a baseball bat or whatever, that kind of thing, like where
Well, what
there's an
about,
obvious immediate threat.
I mean, like when you say points it at someone else, does that mean someone else standing next to you or is it Portland, Oregon,
Well,
Where,
I mean, I guess I could say like one where there's an obvious bad guy, essentially, right? Like, I don't know, say China invades the U.S. From the West Coast, and they're like traipsing over Washington State. That's where I'd be like, oh, okay, well, there's an invasion happening with dudes with guns shooting people, taking over cities and shit. Probably ought to respond to that before, even though I'm just one guy, but like there's probably a lot of other one guys
Mm.
too that could
I,
respond.
I mean, that's the thing. Like somebody has to be the first guy that, you know, crosses that line,
Mm-hmm.
for everyone to have their Spartacus moment.
Yeah.
Um, and 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 that's what I wonder is like, li living in Germany and seeing what's happening and I'm not the only one that sees it this way, but there are a lot of parallels to 1930s Germany and so many people in America included are like, how did the Germans not rise up and stop this earlier? And we're seeing how that happens. Like people rationalize, well, this isn't that situation. It's not that bad yet. It's not an obvious threat yet. Like you keep pushing the goalpost away to the point where, oh, now it's too late,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Well,
And
and that,
that's
that that's
what's going to happen.
like
Like,
the classic poem, first they
yep,
came.
yep.
And but the thing is like it's a slow burn, boiling frogs, I guess, in a way. I mean, because our 9/11 was our like Reichstag fire, right? That kind of thing. And so
40, 43, 46% of Project 2025 has been implemented in the first 8 months of Trump's presidency. This is not a slow burn.
no, I'm talking about like the like the stages leading up to things, because like a lot of the things that are can be done, because keep in mind almost all of this is like on the up and up, right? Like, oh, it's legal to do that essentially. And so these things were facilitated by things that, like, blocks that were put into place before.
Mm,
So that's a thing that we should be concerned about, is like, hey, why is this legal?
yeah. The
Why?
Patriot Act definitely screwed people over, and
Oh
we
yeah,
called it. You
I
can look
know.
back at one of our old episodes. We called it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and even back then, when it happened,
Yeah.
it was like, I could see this going real bad.
Hmm.
Like, it's this is no good. And of course, lots of people were talking about it and on forums. Back then, you didn't have YouTube, and stuff, and people were like very concerned about the potential for this to be abused. And it's
Yep.
like there's a lot of laws that are abused, or and it's like, well, maybe we ought to reconsider. We should change what is legal to prevent that from legally happening.
Right.
Because like the Enabling Act in Germany and stuff, there and several other things that allowed Hitler basically to just legally do everything. Everything was legal, you
Right.
know. Like, well,
And
okay, why
that's
don't
what I
we
was
nip
saying
that?
with, like, new government going forward. We gotta have stuff in place. Like, laws have to expire. I
Yes,
think you've said this before. Like, we have to reevaluate these things over time. And you know what? The ones that we can't get to, let them expire. They couldn't
mm-hmm.
have been that important if they weren't catching our attention enough to put them at the top of the stack. So,
Sure.
like,
Actually,
that's good.
what if here's an idea. Okay, we have the technology now. Because, but say back in like the 1700s and the 1800s. I mean, 1800s we had telegraphs, so there was that, but it wasn't widespread enough. Now we have the internet.
Yeah.
Basically, everybody has the internet. Homeless people have access to the internet. Everybody does. People in prison, you know. Um,
Yeah.
why not do away with senators and like all the representatives, and have everything go to a public vote?
Yeah.
So a piece of legislation, you can have your representatives who craft legislation, right? And then it goes to a public vote. And
Yeah.
not only that, but we should do, because in Washington State, our initiatives and stuff have to be single subject kind of thing. You can't pack a bunch of stuff into it. Why not also require
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
So there's
I
one.
wrote that. I think I wrote
Yeah.
that in too as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
a bill is a thing, one thing.
Yeah.
You don't put 900 fucking line items
Yep.
in there. Like,
Exactly. Well, yeah, and Victoria says you're talking about direct democracy, which, yeah, and I'm kind of hesitant, because while I believe most people are good, most people are idiots also, and uninformed. So that could be
we're
problematic.
not
But
safe from that in this system, though.
no, no, no,
So,
and you're right. Like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And like, for one, we vote on these representatives who don't act in our best interest. They act in the best interest of the corporatocracy.
mhm.
Like so.
That would take a democracy over
Well,
a
why don't
republic
we why
any
don't we
day.
just have these things go to a public vote? And not only that,
Yeah.
have like an initiative process where the people of the nation can craft their own things that can go to a public vote, like we have in states.
Yeah.
Why don't we have that? So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, because I would really love to get rid of daylight saving time. And these motherfuckers up there in DC are dragging their feet on it, and they, talk about it every once in a while, but nothing ever happens. Like, why don't we, why can't me as a person collect signatures and craft my own piece of legislation, put it up for a public vote on a national level to say, hey, let's get rid of DST once and for all? Like, or whatever, maybe you can like craft legislation to unlegislate some previous piece of legislation, like to get rid of this. I would love to see this too. I mean, at the very least, one thing we should have is, for every bill that passes, we have to axe a past one.
Yeah.
or maybe two, right? So we're whittling away at the old shit. Like, so in order to pass something, they have to find older things to nix, to just get rid of. Like, there you go. Clean house,
Yeah.
at least, at the very least.
That's actually a really good idea because so much of this is a chess game where they build a scaffolding of laws that allow them to later do some other shady shit,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, like, why did Martha Stewart go to prison for insider trading, but Nancy Pelosi didn't? And I'm just picking on her because she's like the big one that's made a ton of money. Well, her husband made the money, but but they're all guilty of that, and they
Mhm.
just get like a slap on the wrist if they even get that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you're not one of these elites, you go to prison. Like, what? Well, I mean, that's a problem too. Like lobbying and all this other shit. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum, obviously, but like, we need that, and these are things we need to consider to make changes, and be like, yeah, we need to change things, and uh, I don't know, but
Yeah.
people, this is
There's
this
a
is
good
the
comment here.
Mhm.
There's a lot of comments, but I had this idea that every morning you get a text with everything that was available to be voted on the day, and you vote on what you actually care to vote on, and you skip what you don't care about.
Mhm.
And yeah, like that really should be like it, here's my opinion of voting.
Mhm.
Not everyone should vote.
No.
Like if you aren't educated on it or you don't care about it, don't fucking pretend you do. Like
Yes, no, you're
and
right.
alter the scope of what happens to people that do care about that thing.
Exactly, yeah, you
The
need you need
point of voting is that one way or another, change happens. It doesn't require everybody to have an opinion on everything.
True. Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct on that. I 100% agree
Yeah.
that we need people who are informed and wise, to be voting on things, and
Yeah.
only select things that they're familiar with. Like, but what ends up happening, you get this piece of paper, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just talking about, like, on the state level and stuff, internally, but like, but people always, they check every box. Like, maybe don't do that.
Hmm.
If there's something you don't
I
know about.
never, I don't think in all the handful of times I've actually voted, I
Mhm.
don't think I've ever selected everything
Yeah,
because some things I don't give a shit about. Some things I didn't like any of the choices. Some things I didn't take the time to read about it,
yeah.
whatever.
Hmm.
And furthermore, like this was another thing in my post I think I put is that this is the other pet peeve of mine about people's opinions on voting that if you don't vote, you can't have an opinion. Bullshit.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
in fact, if you voted on something and then change your mind later, I feel like there should be a constant open dialogue from the people like,
Mhm.
hey, we don't like this anymore. Take it away.
Yes.
You should
Oh,
have the ability to
absolutely.
cast votes at any time to say, hey, I don't want this anymore.
Well, and one thing is, because one of the problems with a lot of legislation is implementation. So they'll say, they'll write down what the proposal is. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it sometimes. And then people will vote it in, and then they'll start, you know, using whatever that piece of legislation is to do the thing. And the outcome may not be what they initially said it was going to be.
Right.
And so there should, yeah, you should be able to like squish things if like, for instance, it's poorly implemented and just isn't working out. Like,
Yeah.
get rid of it then. Let's go ahead and stop. Like, why keep carrying forward on a failed thing,
Yeah.
something that isn't working?
I should copy and paste this to the kitchen sink microscopy Facebook and urge people to share this and add to it. You know,
Yeah.
like that's what I really want is people adding their suggestions and modifications and ideas and and like it needs to be a collective effort to build something better
I agree.
because this isn't, even if this somehow miraculously survives Trump,
Hmm.
it won't live much longer. It is broken beyond repair.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like
And I mean, it's basically the decline has been going on for a long time. Obviously,
yeah,
there's a lot of like lies told, like, oh hey, yeah, everything's fine, it's all right, nothing to see here, it's all good.
in our
Meanwhile,
lifetimes
most,
we were raised hearing about how corrupt the government is. So it's been a long time.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Longer than we've been alive.
absolutely, yeah.
And
Well, I think one thing that really what it's almost like there has to be a constitution, a new constitution crafted, like the structure, because like people, a lot of people, when you say, hey, let's create a new government, they're going to be top down. They're going to be like, well, I want government to do this or do that or whatever. No, no, no. Let's look down at the foundational level, like
yeah,
operationally, how does the government operate? This is the first, the foundation upon which you build everything else, and you have to account for a lot of things. And I mean, honestly, I'll say that the U.S. Constitution, considering when it was made, they did a really good job. Like it's very thoughtfully put together. However, um, they missed a few things.
they missed a lot of things. And the
Yeah.
problem is that there isn't enough leeway to adjust that, to add to it, to remove things from it, to amend it, whatever. Like that needs to be more flexible. And if you have a system of government where no one can fucking perch there for their entire lifetime and essentially have dictatorship over their small corner of the government,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't be a danger to have it be more modular.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And
like one of the things I suggested was having president and vice president be voted separately.
it used to be that way. Well, I mean, it
Yeah,
used to be the runner up became vice president.
yeah, fuck that even. Like because that I want to move away from this two party anything
Mm-hmm.
like and even even more I want there to be different term lengths for the president and the vice president so there is always overlap
Mm-hmm.
between the incoming and outgoing
That's
administrations
a good idea. Well, and how about this? What?
4 year 3 year.
Yeah, yeah. And or just offset, you know, by 2 years or something like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. And I think also maybe the role of the president should be different. The president
Yeah.
should more be like a liaison to other nations, other countries, to basically wheel and deal and get things going with other countries, and also maybe somebody who is sort of like, I don't know, a figurehead if a catastrophe happens or whatever, somebody to, bring people together, that kind of thing, in times of
Mhm.
need or in good times or whatever. Just be a, just there. But
Yeah.
they can't really do anything. That's what I'd like to see. Like the only thing they can do is like make agreements with other countries about like trade deals and stuff.
Well, actually, I had an idea of having a separate government for external affairs entirely. A separate
Mm-hmm.
president, vice president, everything. The vice president is even like appointed by the UN. So
Mm-hmm.
that there's like actual collaboration with the rest of the world
Yeah.
going on and the inside president or whatever you want to call it has absolutely no say on foreign policy. Like they just focus on us,
Yeah.
which makes sense if you think about it. A lot of people say we need to focus on us, but you're at the same time asking this president to be the leader of the world police.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing I pointed out is like we need to remove the president from the commander in chief seat. Like that never made sense.
That should be strictly based on the military itself.
Exactly. that needs to be separate
Mhm.
entirely.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. And I think like it would be one something that's maybe more like that's where the representatives would come in to decide like collectively whether a military action is necessary and how to conduct it. And then they just hand it off to like the generals and stuff, and they
yeah,
coordinate whatever and just do it whatever. Um, yeah, it is kind of that's kind of dumb. Oh, we have some comments here. One, let's see here. I think one of the biggest weaknesses of our current laws is they're too detailed in who it covers. Well, and yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about, like way too many things. How is it that a piece of legislation on the federal level is like 1,400 pages long? And like, how are the representatives even going to have time to read that? They never do. They just vote along partisan lines usually. Um, so instead of a woman's right to bodily autonomy, we should have every person has a right to the full autonomy of their body. Well, yeah, absolutely. I think everybody. I like one of the big things in my personal view is you own yourself, and so only you decide what goes into your body. You decide what you do with your body, and which of course would allow for like prostitution being legal, which it should be. Um, and whatever you do, when you're, I guess, if we do have like a legal like an age of consent or whatever, that kind of thing, after that point, then yeah, anything goes. Whatever you want to do, even if you want to end your life, that's it's you own yourself. If you don't have the right to do that, then you don't own yourself. Which so think about that. Um, and which makes you a subject of the state essentially. Um, yeah, that covers men, women, trans people, everyone else. Oh, there was another
apparently here in
also.
Germany, it's actually legal, like prostitution is legal, but it's not like everywhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, no, of
like
course, of course.
and I think people have that misconception, like as soon as we legalize something, it's ubiquitous.
Well,
It's going to be in every nook and cranny of society, and it's like,
well, and
no.
it may be fairly common, but of course now, if it's legal, you don't need to walk the streets with like a pimp dictating what you do.
Hey,
You can like have a regular legit job working at like a place, a brothel essentially. And
hmm
there you go. And you're pretty safe. It's like there could be security, there could be all kinds of stuff, rules and everything.
yeah.
There's another comment too. Let's see. Get out of the oh, the government should hold on a second. I gotta scroll. Hot take, the government needs to get out of the marriage game, period. Do whatever religious sermon you want.
Ceremony.
If you break the if you break these laws, it won't protect you. Well, yeah, I agree. I don't understand why the government is in marriage at all. In fact, I'm kind of don't even really understand why marriage is even a thing. Why can't you just sign a contract? Just like, hey, we're gonna share our shit. There you go. And then
I
you
mean,
can have a ceremony.
isn't that essentially what it is though? Like,
Well, it kind of is, but like you can when you so there are specific marriage laws that are uniform for marriages. Whereas if you just have contracts, you can decide how you want to do things. You just draft your own contract, And then if you want to have a religious thing, like at a church or whatever, let's say you're religious, you can do that. Just have the ceremony and you sign a contract, and there you go.
I mean,
Your own
that's just a
personal.
prenuptial agreement, basically.
Well, yeah, but
Like,
we need to. The
it
the
does
thing is,
make
the government
sense,
needs to
like
get its hands
from
out of marriage and like who can get married and what and da da da.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, like that's bullshit. Like,
Mhm.
saying who can and can't, and you know what? Like, if somebody wants to marry their goat, fucking let them. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
or
care.
their AI companion.
Yeah, the goat's not paying taxes anyway, so they're not going to get a tax break for it.
Mhm.
Like you don't even get a tax break in the US. Like your fucking tax write-off or whatever, your deduction, standard deduction is just double. So
Mhm.
it's the same as if two people did their taxes separately from one another. Like there's
Oh
no
yeah, yeah.
fucking tax break.
The only break you get is if you have kids. But then it's like, is it a break because
You get the
kids cost
right,
money, you
right.
know? So yeah, you're not really coming out ahead, are you? Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of things. Government. I think the problem really it's like the hoarder house, right? It started off as a pretty nice house, and it was a great place to be, and no big deal. But over time, collections started and junk started happening, and the people inside had no intent of like cleaning it up and organizing it, and they just let it fester. Dead cats underneath pizza boxes and shit like that. Like that's kind of how it is. Like,
My
and
my parents' house had a lot of stuff in it. Luckily, it wasn't like totally disgusting or something, but I mean there were like I mean they did find mold in places, and I think that the craziest thing I saw was like in a closet inside a closet, which was I always thought was super cool when I was a kid because it was
oh
like a
yeah.
secret room. Um, like rats had eaten a giant hole in the drywall or something. That was like the craziest thing I saw. But
Well,
like
and that's it's like my
having forgotten spaces and stuff like that. Like that's yeah,
you,
you might need to whittle away at what you're keeping.
yeah, you got to go spelunking every once in a while. But yeah, well, see, like I have a lot of stuff in my house, but it's all organized, and I go through, and occasionally if there's projects that have kind of piled up, and I'll clean it up, put it away, kind of reorganize here and there. I've kind of sort of organized things in a really perfect way for me and my workflow. But I'm not talking about having a lot of stuff. It's where this, the hoarder house, right? Where the floor,
Yeah.
you can't even see the floor. You got to like hold up onto the ceiling to crawl up over a pile of something, that kind of thing. I'm sure everybody's seen those horror videos like that. And that's really, I like, that's really how I see the country, and probably many countries, honestly, are in kind of a similar circumstance, like just bloated. Just
Yeah.
it's way too complicated. There's just too much shit, too many cooks in the kitchen. And you know, yeah, we need to change that, I think. And like this is the thing, this is where community involvement comes in, because I don't know how we would go about doing that,
Yeah.
honestly. It's sort of one of those things. It's like you're in your hoarder house, and you wake up one day and realizes, wow, this is a mess. I don't want this anymore. And but it's almost impossible to figure out where to even begin.
Germany's big on bureaucracy, but it's a fairly young government, like since 1949 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there isn't like there's some stuff that's kind of like, you know what, like that might be a little restrictive when you look at it from an American's perspective, but like when you think about how it affects you in your daily life, it's like, you know what, it's not really
Yeah.
that big of a deal. And then there's like very few things that are like, I don't know, you have to pay like a dog tax just for having a dog or something. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of bullshit. But in the grand scheme of things, is it that big of a deal? Like,
Well, yeah, because you it's a choice to get a dog.
yeah,
Now, if you had to pay like a penis tax, it's like, well, wait a minute, what? you know,
I have to pay a tax for Archie.
yeah. Well, and here I think this is a thing, and this is where the founders of the United States um, maybe didn't really foresee the way things would go, because if you read like the Federalist Papers and some of the documents from the early days, um, it was kind of assumed and kind of baked into things that the people would occasionally just create a reset. Like, all right,
Hmm.
we're going to clean it up. We're going to get rid of it all, start over again. And they had the power, still have the power to do that technically. Um, and so, and that didn't happen. So that's really the problem there, is that like we haven't done really a reset since
What
the
is
founding of this country.
when you say we still have the power to do that, what exactly is that power? Is there something that we could show to the federal government right now? Like this right here says
Mm-hmm.
we can command that we start over right now or something? Or is it more like, I guess what I'm driving at is like, for the people that feel like they need a legal justification
Mhm.
for uprising,
Mhm.
does such a thing exist, or is this just something that you have to push yourself over the line where you say, you know what, legal doesn't necessarily mean right?
Well, yeah, and I mean the First and Second Amendment probably cover that essentially. Like, it's basically protest. Like, for instance, if I don't know, half the country just walked into DC and surrounded it, and they've got guns and shit, and it's like literally half the country. So like 160 million people or whatever. Like, okay, at that point, I think they'd be like, all right, well, there's nothing we could do. Oh, well, let's nuke DC. Okay. Like good luck with that. And it's like you can have force of arms too, but you probably wouldn't have to fire a shot, more than likely. Just the sheer number of people being there would be enough to be like, yeah, okay. You can also well, people could just not vote at all and not pay taxes, right? If enough people did that, well, the government doesn't have any money now, no tax revenue coming in,
Well,
and
okay,
and no voting. So if
person to person, I don't think that makes sense, but like I do like the idea of states withholding. Like the states definitely have the power and the impact
Mhm.
to do that in one fell swoop. But
This is
like
true.
getting a bunch of people at the same time to be like, oh, I'm not paying taxes anymore because each and every one of them are going to be like, well, they'll just throw me in prison or something,
Well, how are they going
So
to do that? There's not enough prisons in the world.
yeah, but like it goes back to what I said earlier. There's got to be like the first person that does it,
Yeah,
you
well,
know,
and that's one of the sticky things too, because it's like there's precedent for things now. Because like I mean, that's basically like what I'm talking about. Not voting and not paying taxes is sort of a passive way of like withering the government, essentially. Imagine the next presidential election comes up and there's only like 1,000 votes cast.
well,
Like
okay,
they'd be like, well,
like
wait a minute. Do they really
think
have will of the
think
people at
back
that
to what
point?
I said earlier. Voting doesn't depend on everybody voting.
No,
If
it's true.
three people vote, that's enough
But
to like keep it going. Like
well,
it,
no, no,
you
no,
will
it is.
never kill voting by just not voting.
No,
Like
no, but
there's no point in protesting by not voting.
no, the rationale behind that is sending a message, right? That like, because yeah, okay, if like only 1,000 people voted, and you can still call an election, but does that really represent the people at that point when such a small fraction of the
Do they
populace?
care?
Well, I think that would send a pretty powerful message, wouldn't it? Like to everybody, it's like this is unprecedented. It's never happened before. But one of the things too, it's like there's a lot of like legislation and legal precedents over the years where like even discussing something like that could be seen as like anti-government or potentially terrorist activity or something
Oh,
like
oh
that.
yeah. Our
And
show
so,
is officially domestic terrorism, I think, at this point.
yeah.
Uh,
And even if you're talking about doing it completely passively, like you don't
mhm.
even need guns to do that. You're not taking over anything. You're just like, fuck it, I'm done. you know, like if everybody did that, but again, I we need a catalyzing condition for people to start taking notice and start thinking of this kind of thing. Because right now, they got their sports ball and their beer and their job and their truck and their boat. They're like, I'm fine. So they're not even there. It's like it seems fine to them,
Yeah.
and so there needs to be something so dramatic that people like they take notice. And I don't know what that would be, but I mean, it kind of seems like things are sort of headed in that direction of some kind of weird ass civil war or something like that.
Yeah.
Which it would be like some kind of I don't even know what that would look like, but it'd be uh,
Yeah, I
very
don't know
strange.
either. I feel like it would be it would be very much like a cold civil war.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
like not really like battlegrounds and stuff, but I think there would be some kind of balkanization
Oh,
of the
I would definitely see that, and we've talked about that before, how that might actually be a good thing.
yeah.
And yeah, well, it'd be like a war of memes or like a rap battle or something, just
Yeah.
protesters yelling at each other.
And really like that I think that would be the better goal for people to have in mind rather than trying to reach across the aisle on the whole fucking country. Just let each state build their own system of government how they see fit, what works best for their constituents,
Mm-hmm.
and and just let them be separate countries.
Well,
Like
actually, if you a good example, we have one in fairly recent history, which all of us probably have
Soviet
witnessed.
Russia.
The Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Like all there's a whole bunch of countries that are now their own independent countries that used to be under the umbrella of the Soviet Union. And when they were under that umbrella, everything sucked. Right. And well, it's probably the government was largely responsible, but nevertheless, those countries were still they had to participate in the Soviet way. And once they were let go and broke apart, a lot of them flourished because it's like, oh, now we can do our own thing in our own way. We're not beholden to the Soviet Union. The Kremlin has no say in what we do, and a lot of those countries are doing quite well. And maybe that's how you could have the U.S. might benefit from that. That like, hey, we don't need to be a part of the Soviet states of America or
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, certain states like, California would of course thrive, but Oklahoma might
Well, no,
suffer,
you would
like,
probably you wouldn't see. I think what you'd see, like Alaska would be its own thing. It would probably be just fine. Texas could be just fine. They're
yeah,
pretty much their own country anyway. I mean, you get California probably, and you'd probably see states like state lines kind of morph a little bit, where
yeah,
multiple states say like, okay, we're gonna form our own sort of mini country.
yeah.
That way, like, and then of course the states would still be friendly to each other, and we've got all these roads and shit, railroads and
Well,
everything, and it's did trade.
they should do it like the EU. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Like for for all the, like imperfection that exists in what the EU is,
Mm-hmm.
um, it is actually considering there's sovereign countries involved and not states.
Yeah,
Actually, like really working well, I think.
and I think
Um,
one like so an EU style system, not from a governance standpoint, but from an economic one, where like,
that's basically all it is.
yeah, for the most part, yeah,
Like there's representatives that yeah, I mean there's like each country elects representatives to go represent the country in the EU, and they use the same currency, and that's
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's actually vital.
yeah,
Like, because if you did have balkanization, we still need a common currency for trade to work. Because like before the foundation of the EU, it was kind of a mess. Like
yeah,
everybody had their own currency, and it's kind of wild, and like trade kind of difficult. And so that's the benefit in my mind that the EU brings, is having a common currency.
yeah.
Although even then, like each country kind of has their own version of that currency, so it's kind of personalized. So that's kind of neat. Um, so it, yeah, and that I'd like to see that. I think that would be good, and have the federal side of things basically just be a commerce manager, and maybe, I don't know, an organizer in case of some kind of attack or something, right? Because it's like, well, that be
And
like,
they function in that way as well, yeah,
yeah, and that makes sense.
to a degree, yeah. Yeah,
We have,
and that makes a whole lot more sense. Like the people have to let go of the patriotism. Like that's that serves no purpose. Like
no,
it
I would say
if
the
it
only,
were a fucking soccer team, I would say it doesn't matter, but it does matter, like
I think,
because you're putting yourself in a bucket and comparing yourself to everyone else. You're you against everyone else, and that's the wrong way to look at things,
Well,
you know.
also patriotism can sometimes allow bad things to happen because
Hmm.
people will look the other way. I think I don't have a problem with patriotism when it comes to like the heritage of like the history
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever, the people of an area or something like, and that makes sense. And in a way too, like a lot of regions throughout the country, not necessarily just states, but they have their own kind of history and culture and things that they feel pride in, right? It's like, oh, I'm part of this or that or whatever. And that's cool. But yeah, you're right. Patriotism and partisanism, those two things
yeah.
kind of need to dwindle,
Yep.
because that it really does cause a lot of problems. Because you know, yeah, well, as we've already talked about, it's these conflicts and people will make decisions based on the other side doing something that like doesn't even make any sense. It's like, well, wait,
Yep.
what? Huh? You know? So and it doesn't benefit people. It just gets worse. It's like, no, we should be working towards a better future at all times,
Yeah.
benefit humanity. And we should be seeing each other as humans and not like an American or whatever. Like it's kind of stupid.
Like ideally, I think what would happen is, the United States as we know it would kind of collapse in on itself, and Canada and Mexico would allow us to create those, you know, Balkanizations,
Mm-hmm.
and collectively as North America and, Greenland and these other
Mm-hmm.
smaller islands that make up North America just kind of come together and say, we're the next EU, we're
Mm-hmm.
the North American Union,
Yeah.
and we all work together to lift each other up.
Sure. And there was actually at one point in time, I don't remember what the proposal was called, but there was going to be like a North American trade agreement essentially, and one of the plans was to create a new kind of currency. I think it was called the Amero, that would be
Hmm.
kind of like the euro essentially. So that way everybody, Canada, the US and Mexico all have one currency that they use for trade, and it would be a lot more stable at that point. Obviously you
Oh
have
yeah.
like everybody, like obviously that would be beneficial, certainly for trade. And that would be good. I think
Yeah.
I'd like, because it's like, if you think about it, all three countries are sort of all in the same house if you look at it.
Really, they are like it, and that's a baby step toward a global unity,
Mm-hmm.
part of a galactic alliance sort of
Yeah.
step. Like the EU, I think is actually like a great example of how a bunch of countries can come work together as a unit, like geographically recognizing that they need their local governments to
Mm-hmm.
operate sovereignly.
Yeah.
And then as a larger unit, they can trade easily.
Mm-hmm.
And if North America did that, if South America did that, if
Yeah.
Asia or, let's say parts of Asia kind of started to do that, because Asia's pretty big.
It is. Yeah.
Um, like I think that, generations down the line could actually lead to a a not dystopian new world order,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
exactly. If you, oh, sorry, chairs. If it's done right, like if the structure, the foundation is built correctly, yeah, I could definitely see that being good.
Yeah.
And you can have like defense agreements. Obviously, like if there was some kind of EU style thing in North America, then now well, you don't really see Mexico or Canada and the U.S. duking it out anymore. But it could happen. So,
Could.
but
Yeah.
like if you have a shared currency and you have trade, like very open trade, um, and borders. That's another thing. It's like if I go to Mexico or Canada, I got to have a passport. You don't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't need a passport to
No,
travel within EU countries. You
no.
just get on a train and go to France or something, right?
There's practically no border control at all. Like, uh, it- coming back from the Netherlands and Belgium, sometimes I'll see um, like a little police blockade where they have you pull off, but we have German plates and they just wave us on, like they don't even stop us to talk to us.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like so, like there's really minimal, very
Mhm.
minimal border control.
And that right there would go a long way for commerce and
Mm,
just commerce in general, because like, oh yeah, you don't need to go through like a checkpoint to go to Mexico. You just drive there, and tourism would be really good.
yeah,
And yeah, see, that's a good thing. And also, I think in a way that would also bring kind of a sense of community, because right now the way it is, it's like, oh, there's the US, there's us, and then there's Canada up there, Mexico down there, like they're the others, right? They're not really us. um and I think that's bad.
yeah,
Especially how connected we are. Like I said, we're in the same house, really. Like the EU is kind of weird because they really aren't. If you think about it, there's obviously like adjacent countries that are not part of the EU,
yeah,
quite a few. So, but like it really makes sense in North America. And like you said, South America as well should certainly do that. That would probably help their economies, because a lot of those countries are, oof, not not doing
yeah,
so well. Some are doing quite well, but not all of them. Um, yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, that's what we do on this show. We save the world,
yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah,
Well, and it,
nobody's watching. So
yeah, yeah, some people, but yeah, I think, and I know that, like you said, the New World Order kind of thing, like, and that is certainly a risk. And that's where like having a good foundation is very important to minimize corruption. Um, and I don't know exactly how that would work,
as
but
long as you've got tiers to it, like it's not just a singular top-down New World Order controls everything
mhm,
across the globe.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So it would be
Like,
like regions, like North America is its own, South America is its own, and you have the EU, and
yeah,
maybe you have
like
the
you will
Asiatic.
never you will never get away from the fact that there's a geographical reach to political power.
Hmm. Well,
You
and
know, you
also not
just
only
you
that,
just have
but
to
it,
tier it in such a way that it makes sense and it works and it functions and it
yeah, and you
functions
wouldn't.
together.
The fact is, you'd never be able to have a proper world government, because how is it going to govern? Like all these different regions are vastly different,
Right.
like
And
very
and
different
they
culturally.
need different scopes is what
Yeah.
they need, like the the new world order, let's call it,
Hmm.
would probably have to exist in an external viewing sense.
Yeah.
Like, how do we represent the Earth to other planets?
That would be, yes, absolutely. That's an important thing, because eventually we may get there. And if
Everything
any,
else is inward facing, like how do
sure.
we make all the global unions play nice with each other? And then
Mhm.
within that, how do we make all these countries in our continent play nice together? And
Sure. Well,
you
I
just go
guess
from
like
there.
a structure like that, or even like if you just were to say the US on its own, like the federal side of things really should only be tasked with a handful of duties.
Yeah,
One being uh, managing the monetary system, making sure there's not counterfeiting, creating a robust financial system for the purpose of trade, um, settling disputes, and keeping the peace, which
yeah,
would also involve some kind of outward facing, like, hey, if we get attacked by somebody, we've got to be able to coordinate defense. But the defense, here's the thing, it can't be centralized. It has to be distributed, like militias essentially. So everybody's in it, and I honestly believe that it should be like Switzerland, where everybody's part of the militia, and in times of need, they can call on you, to protect the country or whatever, something like that. Or if, like, say one section of a country is attacking another section, right? Like this state is they're invading another state and they're killing people. Like, okay, we got to come together and stop that because that's not good. We want peace, um, and that would be good. And what that's this is the thing too. Having a militia structure that's distributed instead of a centralized military is that it's really hard to, like, it would be really hard for the federal government, say, to be like, oh, we're going to invade this other country that did nothing to us. Like,
Right.
people will be like, no, no, they're not doing anything to us.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of that has to do with how we handle the military too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the military here in Germany is very different psychologically
Yeah.
than the United States military.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
it's like you can have an effective military defense without having this psychotic fucking patriotism
Mm-hmm.
burned into their like subconscious. Like
Well,
there really is like brainwashing activity
sure,
in
sure.
the
Oh,
United States military.
that 100%. That's what they do to you. They break you down and then they build you up again.
Hmm.
Um, and so what I would say from a military standpoint, like, everybody would be part of the militia who is capable, right? You're all part. We're just training. The one thing too, it's like also that can be a benefit in that it gets people to work together and that kind of thing from time to time. When it comes to, and that's small arms, right? So your average person would have like a rifle and a pistol. It's your typical thing, and that's who you call on in general to be the ground people. But then, of course, other countries have a lot of other military tech, like fighter jets and satellites and shit you got to deal with. So then you have the state guard that takes care of that.
But that's the thing. Why look at a military or a militia like a purely offensive force?
No, no, I think it should be more than that. Like for instance, the state
Like
guard and the national guard.
science and
Like,
all kinds of stuff, like everyone has something to offer.
sure,
When you say people who are able, it's like, well, if you're not able to pick up a gun and run through a trench in the mud, like maybe you have a brain
yeah, you could be a
that can be
brilliant
used,
tactician or something like that,
Yeah.
or like a cryptographer or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
like
that stuff
in
would
a
still need to
system
be done.
like that, like I feel like it should be people just live their lives and do like no extra special training. They just are what they are
Mm-hmm.
and they use that to benefit the country when there's a need for it,
Well, and what I was going to say,
It's as simple
like,
as that.
kind of along that line, is that something like a state guard or whatever, the militia, would do what the state guard and the national guard does in a lot of situations that are not military, like a natural disaster. They
Yeah.
come in and help clean things, building bridges, repairing things, like whatever, rescuing people, like that. And they're coordinated.
Yeah.
They're on paper a fighting force, but they do a lot of other things.
A guy like
Coast
me
Guard.
could be there to uh, combat biological warfare or, like administrate vaccines or something. Like there's always some application
Mhm.
of whatever specialty that could be applied toward a militia or military application.
Well, yeah,
And
and
you
and
don't
one thing.
need the grandiose fucking, hierarchical structure for
No,
that.
not really. But like what I'm saying, like the state guard would be for more like, so every state would have their own state guard that is
Mm.
like taking the place of what our current military is for the bigger stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like intercepting incoming fighter jets or whatever. Something like the bigger shit when like the average person isn't going to be able to tackle that. And then the average person would basically be part of the militia, and it's like, okay, we're all part of it too, which is also that kind of stops that us versus them sort of thing, because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you have the civilians and then you have the military, right? And they're seen as two completely different things, when it's like, yeah, at the end of the day they're really not. um
Right.
you know.
They're definitely not. They're all civilians.
Sure, but that's one of the things when it comes to like a national defense, to keep other countries who might have their eye on the prize that would be North America. If
Yeah.
everybody was part of the militia,
But
like,
im importantly, they are all civilians. They should not be seen as or treated as property of the government.
no, 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 not at all. And that's kind of my point.
Yeah.
Like, make it like it was back in the day, mostly a militia.
Yeah.
You know, you just whoever is in the federal side, they're like, hey, there's this thing, we need everybody that can to come here and help with this, whatever it might be. It may even be in Canada, like some fires or something, and they need some people at Mexico or whatever, a big flood or an eruption, or who knows, you know. Or maybe they get attacked, and okay, well, we got to come to the defense of North America,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing. I'd like to see that, and then, and, you know, that
Hmm.
would go a long way towards get like ending this, like us versus them, and people squabbling over bullshit that.
You know, it's actually very poetic that we started talking about domestic terrorism and ended with a globally united New World Order sort of kumbaya
Mhm.
situation. Like,
And I think, see, this is maybe the direction, the psychological side of things, um is that people say, well, we can't achieve that, you know, like what we were saying before about like creating a new system, and you know, cleaning house, so to speak. um because people are looking at it from an antagonistic standpoint. Maybe we should be looking at it from a humanitarian standpoint, like what we're talking about here. Let's make that the goal, and we'll work towards that goal. We may not get there, but like, hey, if that is the ultimate outcome that we're wanting to achieve, then our actions will be dictated by that, and will be, you know, probably more effective, I think.
yeah,
Because I mean, I don't know what other people want, but I don't want you know, a corrupt, evil government that's a tyrant. You know, I don't want conflict with other people. You know, why? Who would want that? Like, don't we all want to just get along and have a good life and work together? And I mean, doesn't everybody want that, and be
you would think
safe and
so.
stuff? Yeah, like yeah. Let's see, we have some comments too that we should probably get to. Uh, there are about 3 or 4 states that could opt out of paying federal taxes and the government would shut down. Yes, yes, this is true. But screaming "I don't like you" at the uh, giant stepping on your head seems pretty useless. And then, no, they don't want you to vote. You haven't realized that apathy is a weapon they use. They're counting on apathy to keep doing what they do. Yes, yes, and I think we kind of address that sort of. Do you know what the first use of state militia for federal defense in the freshly minted USA was? I'm not sure. Not sure about that one,
Hmm.
but I know it's early. Well, and
So,
that's, if you read some of the documents of the founders and some of the people around them wrote, they didn't really want a standing army,
yeah,
because the standing army, well, I mean, look at where they came from. That was a problem. And they saw the issues at various countries where having a standing army that was at the command of like a king or something could be problematic. Um, so the concept was basically the militia, which like they say well regulated, but like that that term meant something a little bit different back then. It was like basically to be regular, as in organized and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, and that, see, it's kind of what I was talking about. You have sort of a loose, well, and one of the nice things too, it's like if everybody's kind of not really tight knit and kind of, distributed, it's really hard for somebody to like take control of that or whatever, or to even know what's going on if you're an enemy. Because there's like nobody has, like, maybe there's no central plan or whatever.
Hmm. So for anybody watching on our Facebook page, I just posted this that I had been talking about. I posted it on my personal page a few days ago. I'm just gonna read over it. It's fairly short and might be a good way to wrap up, but it would be great if people would share this and add to it, and maybe we can actually affect some positive change.
That'd be nice.
Um, so the United States was founded on the idea that eventually it would have to be burnt down and started over. It's probably time for the good old we the people to start outlining what could help correct some of the mistakes of the past and enforce checks and balances. I've started a list, copy and paste it, and add your ideas, and let's see where it goes. So the first thing I outlined here, an ethics board chosen annually by a random lottery. All past legislation, all revisions to Constitution, all Supreme Court decisions must pass review by the ethics board, comprised of the people, not of the government, and rejections may only be based on oppression of rights, violation of ethics, etc., not on legality or policy specifics. That's not your scope.
Mm-hmm.
Nor can the board rewrite or revise any of this. They can just say no, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And all the election results are handled by this board too. Like all the counting and everything like that. That needs to be handled by the people, you
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
because then it's not corrupt. The second point, have an external branch. I think we talked about this a little bit. External branch for handling foreign affairs, and that'll be comprised of a mixture of foreign diplomats and elected officials. Involvement in war may only be decided by this branch, and even then, only enacted after approval from the ethics board.
Mm-hmm.
And the external branch is self-contained government, no internal policy involvement. It consists of its own executive, legislative, and judicial branches. Its decisions cannot be overruled by the internal branch, only the ethics board. Presidents, legislators, judges are chosen by all of them, chosen by ranked choice voting by the citizens of the U.S., and the VP is appointed annually by the UN. I mean, that could probably be changed, but like, it was just an idea I had.
Yeah.
Um, Third point, Economic Oversight Committee. This should be a big one. Will be in charge of enforcing compliance with federal budget restrictions, ensuring only public tax funds are used to fund election-based operations. Donations may be made via one's annual tax return, so there's a paper trail, but
Uh-huh.
may not exceed the lesser of 5% of their taxable income or $10,000. So nobody's like buying elections.
Mm-hmm.
Positions are elected every 2 years by the ethics board, ensuring elected officials do not engage in insider trading, thoroughly examining public officials' financials to ensure their annual income from direct government does not exceed 5 times the federal minimum wage, and that all elected officials' first terms are at federal minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be more inclined to keep federal minimum wage at a decent fucking standard. The fourth point, taxation representation branch. This will be a small legal team appointed by the ethics board, tasked with reviewing all tax-funded legislation and taxes levied on the people, and translating it into layperson terminology, publishing it to the website. Citizens at any time, regardless of whether they voted or not, and this is what I was talking about before,
Mm-hmm.
may upvote or downvote the tax-funded legislation in real time. Periodic review by the ethics board and other appropriate departments will be triggered when the negative feedback exceeds 66%, and the tax-funded legislation will automatically be voted on again by the people, regardless and especially if it was passed without a vote by the people. Regardless of feedback, all tax-funded legislation will be subject to review for renewal every 5 years or will otherwise lapse to prevent waste. And
Mm-hmm.
then internal branches will no longer operate without term limits for each position: executive, legislative, judicial. Age limits of 58 for beginning any elected position with a max of 2 4-year terms. So, like, 66 is like the oldest you will ever be in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Pensions for politicians will begin with Medicare enrollment and never exceed a 1-to-1 match of their Social Security monthly payout. No person convicted of a felony may ever hold elected office except after having served 100% of their punishment in accordance with time which is typical for that crime, not like, oh, you get off in 2 months, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and a grace period thereafter of 10 years to show proof of successful rehabilitation, because you have to hold these people to a high standard.
Yeah, exactly.
The Electoral College will be dissolved and primaries will be open to any party. Ranked choice voting will reduce candidates in each party to three choices with no limit on numbers of parties represented. So you just have a voting fucking free for all.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it doesn't matter how many people vote. You just need a majority, you know? Like,
Yeah,
that's simple. The vice presidency will be a separately elected position. I know I said this was
you
short, but
did.
it's sounding long. Uh,
Yeah.
it's almost
And
over.
actually gotta go soon. So,
Okay, yeah, yeah. The vice presidency will be third to last point.
mm-hmm.
Separately elected position, 3-year rotation, one-term cap. In the event of assuming the presidency, the VP become president, completes the former president's term length of the remainder of the 4 years, but their vice presidential one-term limit still applies. A normally elected president may serve 2 4-year terms. This allows leadership positions to be fluid, always providing overlap with the prior and next administrations, and restores the ability to have two different parties leading together.
Mm-hmm.
Second to last point, executive orders are to be used ethically for emergency situations and will expire after 3 months with no possibility of extension. All executive orders must pass the ethics board approval or will be terminated earlier than those 3 months. And finally, the presidency no longer serves as commander in chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, but reserves the right to be briefed by and consult with the secretaries of each branch. So
Hmm.
that's just kind of what I came up with at first.
That's pretty good. That's a good start.
Yeah, like it definitely covers a lot of oversight, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that we've come across in the 250 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So,
Really good.
yeah,
Good
share
way.
that.
Good way to end it. I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
and like and share on Facebook too. So,
Yep. And of course, if you're watching this after the fact, leave your comments down there. Whatever you think about any of this stuff. Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess that'll conclude this episode then.
yeah.
Sweet. All right. And well, we'll be back next week for something different. Who knows? Maybe just cover another thing that we've covered before that there's changes or
Yep.
whatever. I mean, shit, we have so many episodes. It's like we always say, well, we should come back to that. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. We'll never run out of topics.
no, no, never. All right. Well, thanks everybody for sticking it out with us. See you later, Victoria, next week. Yep.
Thanks
And
for deep sink diving into terrorism. And here's my little uh, Playmobil Antifa.
oh, yeah, that's funny. oh, that's great. All right, everybody. Well, see you next week then. And Yeah, have a good one, and take care of each other.